60 Minutes Rewind.
The name Bloomberg is a worldwide brand that could refer to a number of things: a cable channel, a radio network, a news service, a magazine, or a 75-year-old former mayor of New York who founded the Bloomberg financial media empire and flirted with running for president. According to Forbes magazine, Michael Bloomberg is the 8th richest man in the world and one of a growing number of extremely wealthy people who plan to give most of their money away, releasing a torrent of private philanthropy that is already having an impact on the country. Of that group, Michael Bloomberg is one of the most interesting and straightforward, and he agreed to talk to us about how he came to accumulate $47 billion and what he hopes to accomplish by giving it away.
Oh, it's more money than anybody could possibly spend on themselves. The issue is, what can you do with it? You can't take it with you. Although I have a cartoon at home of a guy on his deathbed in a hospital with the rails around and his family looking down like vultures, and he looks up and he says, "I know I can't take it with me, but I can take the access code."
At 75, Mike Bloomberg, as he likes to be called, is a long way from retirement. Most days you'll find him in the gleaming Oz-like tower that bears his company's name, a high-energy, egalitarian workplace at the crossroads of media, information technology, and capitalism.
This is an incredible building, office building. It looks like, I don't know what it looks like.
What I'm trying to do is to create excitement. So people say, my goodness, what's going on here? There's something different about this company. The employees, you want them to get psyched. And it's a chance to meet each other. My job is to get people to work together.
With free food and no offices, even for Bloomberg, this might be considered one of the world's great corporate headquarters, if it weren't for the fact that Bloomberg LP is not a corporation. It's a limited partnership, a private company, and 85% of all of this and a lot more belongs to Mike Bloomberg.
Is this a technology company? Is it an information company?
Yes and yes. We try to get information people need, store it, present it, let you use it.
When Bloomberg started out as a clerk on the Wall Street trading desk of Salomon Brothers in 1966, he thought there must be a better way to get up-to-the-minute financial data than combing through the Wall Street Journal. He spent 15 years trying to convince his partners at Salomon that computers could be the answer. When they fired him in 1981, he used his $10 million severance to hire 3 young engineers and launch his startup.
When I started the company, it was before PCs were invented. I know you don't think there was a day. We literally built our own, and the internet hadn't been invented. So we created our own. We'd rent a telephone line and then had a device that let you branch out when you got to Chicago or wherever.
Ever since then, Mike Bloomberg has pretty much done things the way he wants to.
Where else have you seen a curved escalator? We needed a curved one. It fit into the space, and the architect said, doesn't exist. And I said, you go to Japan, you'll find a curved one. And they did, of course.
Bloomberg has a degree in electrical engineering from Johns Hopkins University, and it is that discipline of an engineer that defines his character and personality: detached, analytical, pragmatic.
These are some of the words that people have used to describe you. Tell me
Are these all my relatives? Or?
No. I don't think so. Well, maybe.
Depends whether it's good or bad.
Blunt.
I tend to be reasonably blunt, maybe a little bit too much, but I just always respected people that tell the truth, and I've always wanted people to tell me the truth.
Self-confident.
Reasonably self-confident, been successful, don't think that I'm infallible, will always make mistakes.
Arrogant. You've certainly heard people say that.
I suppose I come across that way sometimes, but my mother would have told me, don't.
Even his late mother would probably forgive him for the occasional lapse of humility, given the size and the scope of the Bloomberg Empire. Nearly 20,000 employees in 192 locations around the world, gathering, writing, transmitting, and analyzing information that will move markets.
These people are doing 1-minute radio business updates for 100 different radio stations around the country.
But the real money and most of the profits come from a mysterious piece of equipment known as the Bloomberg Terminal that sits on the desks of titans and traders.
This is my desk.
All over the world.
Sound, Pictures, graphics, tabular data, different ways to look at the markets.
It's really a customized keyboard and closely guarded proprietary software linked to a private computer network that provides a volume of data that's unavailable anywhere else. Live streams from 300 stock exchanges, curated tweets, the exact location of oil tankers around the world, the kind of stuff 325,000 professionals pay $25,000 to rent for 1 year. If you do the math, it adds up to about $8 billion.
But let's say you want to look at a stock, General Motors, for example.
After using his fingerprint to log onto his account, Bloomberg gave us a peek behind the curtain.
On the left are all of the companies that sell parts to General Motors, and on the right are all of the companies that buy General Motors output, generally cars. The different indices that General Motors stock is in. Here are the other companies that compete with them. Here are the big holders of their stock, analysts that follow it, who's on the board, who works in the company.
Why has nobody else done this?
For an individual company to do it, it's probably too expensive unless it's your business. This is our business.
Bloomberg has not only left his mark on Wall Street, he has left it on New York City. He took us up in a company helicopter he was piloting to have a look.
LaGuardia helicopter November 6, Mike Victor.
The thing he likes best about flying, he said, is if you don't follow the rules, you die. By 2001, Bloomberg was already worth $5 billion and looking for a new challenge. He wanted to run something big like the UN or the World Bank. He settled on New York City, taking leave from his job and spending $250 million of his own money to get himself elected mayor 3 times.
Here is the new World Trade Center. You can see the big tall building and others. And
the first time he was elected was just 2 months after 9/11. He managed the resurrection from the rubble.
right through there you can see the Oculus, which is this big shopping thing. This whole part of Manhattan before was sort of desolate. After 9/11, we now have 25 hotels. Now it's a bustling residential community as well.
He saw the city through the economic crisis of 2008. And while he was mayor, development and construction boomed, and the crime rate dropped.
Hudson Yards, which is this big development, phenomenally successful development, created an enormous amount of jobs, an enormous amount of new office space.
He was sometimes ridiculed for his public health war on smoking, trans fats, and soft drinks. But he points out life expectancy of New Yorkers increased by 3 years while he was in office.
Did you enjoy your time as mayor?
Loved every minute of it. It's a wonderful job. The challenges are enormous, but you have a great opportunity to make a difference.
He was successful enough in the job to twice consider running for president, but he was never able to find a solid constituency in either party. Last year, he thought about running as an independent and was prepared to spend $1 billion of his fortune to get elected, aides say. He had even decided on retired Admiral Mike Mullen as a running mate.
And you came close, you looked at it, but you didn't pull the trigger.
If I thought we could win or had a reasonable chance, I would have done it. It would be totally unlikely, very unlikely, that an independent could win. And in my case, I was mayor for a long time. People know where I stand. I couldn't pretend to be something I'm not. For the Republicans, I'm pro-choice, pro-gay rights, pro-immigration. That's a good start there. You'll never get their nomination. On the Democratic side, I believe in teacher evaluation. The big banks, we need to help them rather than just keep trying to tear them down. Those are not particularly things that will help you get the nomination.
He campaigned hard against Donald Trump, his New York rival in the general election, calling him a con man at the Democratic convention in Philadelphia.
I'm a New Yorker, and I know a con when I see one.
Have you spoken to Trump since he's in the White House?
Yes, once I called him and congratulated him. We joked about my speech in Philadelphia. And before he finished the conversation, he gave me his personal phone number, his cell phone. I haven't called him, so I don't know whether he'd answer it now, but I hope he does a good job.
You're not going to run for office again?
Well, I'm 75 years old. It'd be an age issue, I suppose. I've got plenty of things to do, and maybe I'll run for president of my block association, but not much more than that.
The story will continue after this.
Bloomberg remains incredibly influential and was received as a world leader when he traveled abroad last month for meetings on climate change. He is still trying to make a difference and using his incredible wealth to do it. Almost all of his fortune will end up with his charitable foundation. He's already given away more than $5 billion to causes that often dovetail with his political interests.
There's now a fairly crowded field out there of people who are incredibly wealthy that are giving money to advance their own political agendas.
Well, if the projects they fund...
The Koch brothers, for one, or George Soros.
I know George Soros and I know the Koch brothers, and while I don't agree with any of those three on a lot of things, I think it's fair to say, because I know them reasonably well, they really believe and they really are trying to do something. They really want to change the world. You, for example, in the Northeast, couldn't get treated for cancer at any major university or hospital without being in a Koch cancer building. They've given an enormous amount of money, and if you get cancer, you should start saying thank you to the Kochs.
To some, it's just another example of the super wealthy having a disproportionate influence on political debate and public opinion. Bloomberg has spent $1 billion trying to get people to quit smoking, $135 million to battle the NRA on gun control, and $100 million to assist the Sierra Club and its lawyers in shutting down more than 250 coal-fired plants.
I mean, you're not out of the political arena altogether. You're very active in a number of issues, coal and the environment being one of them right now.
Yeah, but I don't know that coal is a very dirty fuel. It's been killing people around the world. People are saying no more coal.
In a new book with Carl Pope, Bloomberg writes, "I don't have much sympathy for industries whose products leave behind a trail of diseased and dead bodies." He's more sympathetic to the miners.
Coal miners have lost their jobs. It's very tragic, and we have to do something about it. Technology's come in. Technology has replaced most of these coal miners. They didn't lose their jobs for any reason other than it was automated. And now we have a bunch of people who are, because no fault of their own, they've lost their job. Those jobs don't exist anymore. Somebody said to promise that coal jobs are coming back is like promising the workers who used to work at Eastman Kodak that film is going to come back. Not likely to happen.
There are people out there who would say, look, is it Mike Bloomberg's job to give the Sierra Club $100 million to go out and try and shut down 250 coal plants?
Well, keep in mind, Mike Bloomberg's kids and grandkids are breathing that air, just like the coal miners' families are breathing that air. And the coal miners are the ones that have the conflict. They want their jobs, I understand that. They need to be able to feed their families. They also have to worry about their health and the health of their families.
Are you giving money to try and find these coal, to try and re-educate and give them new skills?
We're certainly working on trying to find ways to create jobs, not just for them, but technology, which is what cost the coal miners their jobs, not the Sierra Club, incidentally. Long before the Sierra Club started this, coal mining jobs went from 250,000 in the country to 70,000 in the country.
Bloomberg sees personal philanthropy in the tradition of Carnegie, the Rockefellers, and the Mellons, not as a threat to democracy, but as a way to do important things that are not politically feasible. And as always, Mike Bloomberg trusts his judgment.
Is there anything you want that you don't have?
I like what I see when I look in the mirror. If I get sentimental, I look and say, oh, it's a bad day. They beat up on me, this, that, and the other thing. But you know, we've spent $1 billion trying to convince people to not smoke. It's been phenomenally successful. We've probably saved millions of lives. There aren't many people that have done that. So, you know, when I get to heaven, I'm not sure I'm going to stand for an interview. I'm going right in.